Did you know it can cost $10,000 or more to make an album? Between studio time, producers, mastering engineers, the costs just rack up to insane amounts. But me, I just wrote, recorded, and produced an entire album for $0, and you can too. Look, if you're just starting out and you're just trying to release your first single, EP, or album, you don't need to be spending tons of money on the production. Will your music sound better? Yes, of course. But unless you're planning on getting millions of streams, you're not gonna make that money back in any way, and that's a problem. You don't need to go into debt or take out a loan to make art. Some of the most iconic albums of all time have been recorded in home studio setups. Think of Bon Iver in the woods, or Billie Eilish in her bedroom. You don't need a professional setup. That is the beauty of the modern music scene. And if you don't have money but you have time, well, I guarantee you can invest in yourself, learn to produce yourself, learn how to get equipment for cheap. And with the money you save, you can run ad campaigns, you can make CDs, you can make merch, and all of these things will give you far much more return on your investment than you would by going to a studio and getting it professionally done. Now, as a disclaimer, this video isn't going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to produce yourself and how to get that professional sound. Rather, I'm gonna show you a bunch of cheat codes to how you can get free samples, free gear, how to get deals on mixing and mastering, and how you can get that big budget sounding production on a smaller scale. These are all techniques and products that I use on a daily basis to make my own music that I release. And if you want to hear the proof, go check out my new album, Eventually It's Okay, because you can hear what it sounds like to make an album entirely for free. Now, to get started with recording yourself, all you need is a mic and an interface. I didn't pay a single dollar for this. The way I got this was, in college, I entered a business competition, pitched my music and social media as a brand, and got some grant money, and I used that money to get this interface. Now you're probably thinking, Ryan, I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't get to go on a business competition and win money for my music. But the point here is really to get creative in how you source gear. There's tons of grants out there for small indie artists that you can use to get new equipment, to get funding for your album. So research that and look up on Google. Are there any local business competitions in the area? Are there any grants for up-and-coming artists? And you might be able to get some good deals and not have to pay a single cent to get started on your musical journey. This microphone is a Shure SM58. I use it literally for all of my live performances. I've also recorded songs like Olive Eyes using this mic. It's literally like $80 new. It's super versatile. Obviously, there's better mics out there and I've upgraded since then, but this is a great starting point. The last piece of equipment you'll need is a digital audio workspace or a DAW. This is literally just an app on your computer that lets you actually make the music, to put all your recordings in, to add the effects, and basically line it all up. If you have a Mac, you already have one. GarageBand is completely free, comes with all Macs, and it's honestly a great resource. I used it for my first EP, and hot take, it is really, really good, like almost as good as Logic. The reason I don't have Logic is because GarageBand is good. Also, like half of my friends who produce download free cracked versions of Logic on the internet, which I don't know how to do, but lots of people do it. If you know how to illegally download free versions of software, I'm not endorsing it, but also if you're on a budget, that's totally a method you could use to get your DAW. Now, to record, of course, you'll need some instruments. One underutilized technique that I don't see people talking about is that you can just use your keyboard on your laptop as a MIDI controller, as a drum pad, as a keyboard. All the DAWs let you do this, and while it's certainly not as functional or practical as having a MIDI keyboard or drum pad, you can just as easily tap out loops on your keyboard or even play chords on a piano on your keyboard, which I think is a really cool thing. You don't even have to have an instrument per se. You can download sample packs, chop up loops, or go online and basically get already made chord progressions and instrumentals. Obviously, you have less control, but if you're really in a pinch or don't even know how to play an instrument in the first place, there's totally ways around it. Which brings me to my next point, free sample packs. You want to layer in a bunch of different sounds, and maybe you don't have a mandolin, or maybe you don't have a slide guitar or 808s, You can use sample packs to really enhance your sound, add in instruments that you wouldn't otherwise have. I really recommend cymatics.com for when you're first starting out. I use a bunch of their samples. They have one lo-fi sample pack called Eternity that I put on literally almost all of my jazzy lo-fi pop songs like Olive Eyes, Nights Like These. It has like vinyl crackle sounds. It has lo-fi drum loops. So I'm constantly using free samples like this to enhance my music. And if you're ambivalent about using someone else's chord progressions, you can also chop up these samples and totally make them your own. You can repitch them, you can speed them up, you can detune them, You can literally just take like a single chord, you can chop it up. So there's lots of ways you can get creative and still make someone else's samples your own work. Now, when it comes to producing and getting your music to sound like an actual recording, you need effects or plugins. This is things like reverb, EQ, compression. Most DAWs come with standard plugins that you can use for these, but it's also nice to have a variety of different plugins because they all do different things. If you're just starting out, Melda Productions is a great thing to download online. It literally is a whole suite of plugins. It has auto-tune, it has EQ, it has compressors. I use a lot of these in all of my productions. Now, after everything is recorded, you move on to the mixing stage. Now, this is the hardest stage in my opinion. At this stage, everything is recorded and you're just trying to get everything to sound perfect as a whole. You don't want, the guitar to be too loud. You want the vocals to really pop through and shine through. You don't want the dynamics all over the place where you have this suddenly super loud part and super low part. And the mixing is all about toning and honing all of that in. Now, mixing is expensive. A lot of people hire mixing engineers and it's a totally valid thing to do. But at the end of the day, mixing is really just about using your ears. It takes a ton of practice, a ton of training of both your ears, listening to other songs, seeing how other producers and engineers mix and master things. But at the end of the day, it is common sense and it's just what sounds good to you. It's not even, does this sound good? It's what sounds good to you. So if you want your vocals to sound super far away and muted, then that's totally valid if that's what you're going for. And you can work with all of the recordings to achieve that effect, whether it be adding more reverb, panning them in a certain direction. So this stage is very much an art form and very much interpretive. And it's up to you to decide how you want it to sound. With mixing, practice makes perfect. Now, the final step of the recording process is mastering. And nowadays, mastering is actually pretty easy. And I say that because there's a ton of AI algorithmic softwares out there that will basically master your music, and it's way cheaper than hiring a mastering engineer, and it's a way quicker process. It's literally instantaneous. You just upload your song, you can modify a few things, you can even hear parts of the song and what it will sound like before you pay a single cent. You can get some really good deals on sites like Lander, especially again on Black Friday, or sometimes some of these services even give you a free first master, that kind of thing. You can also find real people to mix and master your music on sites like Craigslist. With Catch Me If You Can, I got that song entirely mixed and mastered for free by an amazing producer and engineer who was simply looking to build his portfolio and add works to his resume so he can go to other artists and say, hey, I've done this in the past, I've done this in the past. You can also message producers on Instagram and try and work out a rate. If you're doing something like an album where you're gonna have a bunch of songs so you can guarantee them steady work, then they might be able to cut you a deal that's better than their standard rate. So the album is done, but you need to get it on Spotify, and that usually costs money. In my last video, I actually ranked a bunch of different distributors, the pros and cons of each service, and one of the services I mentioned was RootNote, which is a great option for if you're first starting out. It is literally completely free to upload your music to streaming services using RootNote. The only catch is that they take 15% of whatever revenue you would make from those streaming services. It's not the best deal, but if you're just trying to get your first release out there, your first EP, just if you're looking to set up your artist profile on Spotify, test the waters, or just have some sort of credibility where you can show friends, families, or other musicians that, hey, I have music out there, then use RootNote and it's 100% free and you're not spending a single cent. Also, to upload, you're gonna need cover art. Some people pay photographers, some people pay artists, and those are all amazing ways to get really unique artwork. But at the end of the day, you can get a really good photo of yourself or of nature or of whatever the song is about. Do some quick color editing, put some filters on it from Instagram or whatever. Go to Canva, completely free, find a good font, put the text on there. That's what I do for all my songs. It's not something you have to obsess about or spend any money on, and boom, you got album art. Okay, so I just walked you through the process of how theoretically you could produce an entire album for free. Now, obviously, this is a huge oversimplification of the entire process. Making a song or an album is an incredibly difficult process that takes a ton of time, effort, and energy. And it's not gonna be something that happens overnight. But I just wanted to show you in this video that it's possible to make good sounding songs without spending a lot of money. I'm here as living proof of it. I hope that you found this video helpful. Again, if you wanna hear what an album that costs $0 actually sounds like, well, go check out my album, Eventually It's Okay. It's out everywhere now. I really poured my heart and my soul into this project, and I hope it shines through, and I hope you're able to resonate with the songs and the lyrics. I got a ton of great music videos that are out or on the way, and I can't wait to share them all with you. So stay tuned, like and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you next time.